Welcome to our deep dive. It's into this topic, seduction.
Hmm.
And it's something that's, I think everyone kind of has a preconceived notion about. But
Yeah.
I think we're going to blow some of those up today.
Hmm.
So you've provided us with some really interesting material, starting with Emory Green's book, Dark Seduction and Persuasion Tactics, and then also some academic papers and articles even about historical masters of persuasion. And I guess our goal today is to kind of find out what are the core principles of seduction, and how can we apply this knowledge maybe beyond just the romantic, realm?
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. I think it's going to be an exciting journey. As someone who studies influence, I'm really interested to dive in and see what we uncover together.
Yeah, I think Green's book really hits on the idea that seduction is about persuasion. It's about persuading someone to follow your lead, and he makes it very clear that this can be in a romantic relationship, but it can also be in a career or in business negotiations or even just everyday interactions.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think one of the things that Green does really well is he kind of separates seduction from other forms of influence, like persuasion or manipulation. And he points out that seduction is all about tapping into those existing desires and needs, working with what's already there, not trying to force something new.
Right.
And so it's not inherently a bad thing.
It's not, no. And that makes me think about how movie trailers are made, like the really good ones. They get you super excited to see a film that turns out to be just okay. You know what I mean? Like they've used those subtle seduction techniques to get you to crave that cinematic experience.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a perfect example. And if you think about it, I mean, it's seduction is everywhere from
Yeah.
advertising and marketing, even in politics. It's
Yeah.
all about tapping into those core desires and framing it in a way that resonates with people.
I was really struck by some of the examples in the materials you sent of historical figures who kind of mastered this. I mean, you've got Casanova, the legendary lover of Madame de Pompadour,
Hmm.
mistress to King Louis the XV, even more modern figures like Wilt Chamberlain and Russell Brand. I mean, they all had such different approaches and personalities. I mean, is there like a single recipe for successful seduction? Or what is it that makes these people effective?
Well, I think it's fascinating to look back through history and see how these figures in different eras understood and wielded the power of persuasion and influence to achieve their aims. It shows us that seduction has always been a part of the human experience.
I feel like the internet age has really changed things.
Absolutely.
Like we've got the rise of these seduction communities, online resources,
Yeah.
offering advice, techniques, and it feels like seduction has become more accessible in a way, for better or for worse.
Totally. And it's really led to a kind of mixed bag of outcomes. You have some people who, because there's so much more information available, are able to learn and explore different approaches and use them maybe for good. But you also have this other side where manipulative tactics are spreading much more easily. And so I think it's something that we need to be really mindful of.
One thing that I was kind of fascinated by in the materials was this idea of the dark triad:
Oh, yeah.
narcissism, Machiavellianism, and psychopathy.
So, yeah.
These are traits that are often associated with manipulation.
Hmm.
And I'm wondering, are those actually necessary for success in seduction, even if we're talking about unethical forms of seduction?
Yeah, it's a great question. It's a very common one. And I think you might see those traits in some individuals who are skilled at seduction, particularly the kind of darker, more manipulative side.
Right.
But it's important to remember that they're not a prerequisite for success. And particularly if you're aiming for ethical connections. And from an evolutionary psychology perspective, those dark triad traits might offer some advantages in certain situations, but I think relying solely on them for seduction can lead to really unhealthy and ultimately damaging behavior.
Because ultimately, I mean, like genuine connection and respect is
Mhm.
vital for ethical seduction,
Yeah, absolutely.
which I think the dark triad kind of lacks.
Yeah, absolutely. Ethical seduction thrives on that mutual attraction and genuine consent.
Mhm.
It's not about using another person for your own gain.
We also hear about a lot these like alpha males and females.
Mhm.
These are the individuals who seem to effortlessly attract others, often through, just displays of confidence and dominance. Is this an accurate representation of how seduction really works? Or is there more to it?
Yeah, I think it's important to be careful with these oversimplified concepts like alphas.
Yeah.
While confidence and self assurance can certainly be attractive qualities, True seduction involves a deeper understanding of the psychology of attraction.
Yeah.
It's about recognizing what makes someone receptive to influence. Things like, unmet needs, a desire for novelty, maybe a willingness to believe in, a certain fantasy.
Okay. So if we flip that around then, what makes someone easily seduced? Is it just personality? Or there's some like underlying psychological factors?
Yeah, well, I think the materials you shared actually point to a few crucial elements. One of the big ones is unmet needs.
Okay.
If someone feels like their needs aren't being met and someone comes along and promises to fulfill those needs,
Right.
it can definitely make an individual much more susceptible to, seductive advances. A desire for novelty and excitement also plays a role, as does a willingness to kind of buy into an idealized version of reality.
It seems like seduction is this delicate dance between, the seducer creating this illusion and the target's own kind of psychological predisposition.
That's a great way to put it. It really is this dynamic interplay
Yeah.
between, the techniques employed by the seducer and then the target's receptivity to those techniques. And I think understanding both the art of persuasion and the complexities of human desire is essential.
Speaking of technique, the materials that you sent outline this three-step model for seduction: attraction, comfort, and trust building. Can you break down those stages and what specific techniques might fall under each?
Sure, absolutely. So, the first stage, attraction, is really all about capturing attention and piquing interest.
Okay.
And this can be accomplished through a variety of ways, demonstrating confidence, a sense of humor, a unique personal style. The next stage, comfort, focuses on building rapport and establishing a sense of ease. And, techniques like kino-escalation, which involves gradually increasing physical touch, can be very effective here.
Okay.
Finally, building trust is essential for creating that deeper connection. And this involves showing reliability, empathy, and a genuine interest in the other person's well-being.
So it's not just about a fleeting moment of attraction,
No.
but nurturing that connection over
Yeah,
time,
exactly.
fostering that trust.
Yeah, it unfolds over time.
Yeah.
And it requires a careful balance of strategy and authenticity. And I think tailoring your approach to the individual needs and desires of the person you're interacting with is key.
One technique that I was really fascinated by was the hover and disqualify.
Oh, yeah.
It sounds almost counterintuitive. How does that actually work?
Yeah, it's a really clever approach. So basically you start by expressing interest and then you subtly withdraw that interest or hint that you're not fully available.
Right.
And what this does is it creates a sense of scarcity
Yeah.
and it kind of piques the other person's curiosity,
Sure.
making them more likely to kind of pursue your attention.
It's almost like playing hard to get, but
You could say that.
with a more strategic
Yeah.
element.
Yeah, exactly. It's about projecting this aura of desirability.
Right.
Making the other person work a little bit harder for your approval, which ultimately increases their investment in the interaction.
And then, I have to ask about negging,
Yeah.
which we hear a lot about
Mm-hmm.
in the context of pickup artistry.
Yeah.
Backhanded compliments or subtle insults, to lower someone's self-esteem and make them more vulnerable. Is this ethical?
Negging is incredibly controversial, and rightfully so. It's rooted in manipulating insecurities, which is inherently disrespectful and unethical.
Right.
And while it might seem to work in some cases, I think in the long run, it really erodes trust and it damages the possibility of, forming a genuine connection.
So it's a clear case of crossing a line from ethical to unethical seduction.
Absolutely. Ethical seduction is about mutual respect, consent, and authentic connection. And I think, techniques like negging really have no place in healthy interactions.
We've been talking about the techniques, and it occurs to me that the techniques are only part of the equation.
Right.
Like the seducer themselves plays a big role.
Yeah, I mean, it's almost as if certain personality types emerge
Yeah.
as masters of attraction.
Yeah, right.
And each having their own, kind of special sauce.
Their own methods and their own, allure.
Yeah, exactly.
Green in his book kind of brought up some compelling examples. So what are some of the common archetypes that we see?
Well, I think a classic one is the rake,
Okay.
as embodied by figures like Casanova.
Right.
And they're driven by this, insatiable desire for conquest.
Yeah.
The thrill of the chase is really what motivates them.
Yeah.
And that often leaves a string of broken hearts in their wake.
That's the classic playboy.
Yeah.
Always on to the next one. Never settling down.
Exactly. Yeah, their seduction strategy revolves around charm and wit and an air of mystery. They're experts at sparking that initial attraction,
Yeah.
but they often struggle with maintaining commitment.
Yeah, for sure. So that's an interesting contrast, I think, to, the ideal lover archetype
Yeah,
as embodied by someone like Madame de Pompadour,
right.
where it seems like they aim to fulfill their target's deepest desires and fantasies.
Yeah, they're incredibly adept at kind of mirroring their target's needs and aspirations.
Okay.
Creating this illusion of perfect compatibility.
Right, yeah.
And their seduction really relies heavily on emotional connection and a deep understanding of the target's psychology.
It's like they're creating this custom-tailored, romantic experience,
Right.
perfectly catering to that person's, desires.
Exactly, yeah. They excel at nurturing intimacy
Right.
and emotional fulfillment, and making their targets feel truly seen and cherished.
Yeah, that's great. So let's switch gears a little bit
Yeah.
and talk about the charmer,
Okay.
as exemplified by someone like Benjamin Disraeli.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
they radiate this charisma, this magnetic energy that draws people in.
Yeah, they're captivating. This archetype really relies on their ability to create this kind of infectious, captivating aura
Yeah.
that makes them just irresistible.
They're the life of the party.
Right.
They're the ones that command attention wherever they go.
Exactly. Yeah. And their seduction strategy hinges on creating that really positive, engaging atmosphere,
Yeah.
making their targets feel at ease, entertained, and just utterly captivated.
I see. Okay. So then you have the star,
Mm-hmm.
which is an archetype that embodies this almost unattainable allure. Like they
Yeah.
project this image of being, larger than life, shrouded in mystery.
Right, like, JFK or Marilyn Monroe.
Yeah.
They just had this aura of mystique that made them so incredibly alluring.
It's like they project a fantasy
Right.
onto themselves.
Yeah.
And the target's completely enthralled by the illusion.
Exactly. And their seduction is rooted in their ability to cultivate that sense of mystique
Yeah.
and fascination,
Right.
making their targets really yearn for a peek behind the curtain.
Then finally you've got the siren,
Ah,
an
yeah.
archetype that embodies, feminine allure, this raw sensuality,
Mhm, mhm.
often embodied by figures like Cleopatra.
Right.
Um, they just exude this powerful combination of, beauty and charm,
Yeah.
and they leverage their physicality to just, mesmerize their targets.
Yeah, they're really tapping into those primal instincts.
Right.
Drawing others in with their potent magnetism.
So how do they do it? Like, what's their strategy?
It's centered around evoking desire
Yeah.
and fascination,
Yeah.
making their targets feel this almost overwhelming urge to possess them.
Okay. I think it's important to note that, these archetypes, while distinct,
Yeah.
they can overlap
Absolutely.
and blend in the real world. I mean,
Sure.
it's rare to encounter someone who perfectly embodies a single archetype.
Right. Yeah, human behavior is complex, and I think our seduction styles are often a mosaic of various influences.
Yeah.
I think it's about understanding the subtleties of these archetypes
Yeah.
and recognizing how they manifest in our own interactions and the people that we encounter.
So beyond those archetypes, I'm kind of interested in delving deeper into the psychological underpinnings
Yeah.
of seduction. I mean, we touched upon the dark triad, but there's so much more to uncover. For instance, how do power dynamics come into play?
Well, I think power dynamics are a significant factor in
Yeah.
attraction.
Right.
Individuals in positions of power,
Right.
whether it's, social or economic or even physical power,
Yeah.
often have, a natural advantage
Yeah.
when it comes to drawing others to them. I mean, there's that age-old saying, power is an aphrodisiac.
It's true. Yeah.
And so, power can create this aura of desirability and influence,
Right.
and make those who wield it appear more alluring to potential partners.
Okay. So let's talk about Kino escalation again,
Mm-hmm.
which we touched upon earlier. This idea of gradually increasing physical touch
Right.
to establish comfort and intimacy. So
Yeah.
how does that actually unfold? Like in real life situations?
Well, I think kino escalation requires a delicate touch,
Right.
both literally and figuratively.
Yeah.
It's about It's about really carefully observing your target's nonverbal cues
Okay.
and responding accordingly.
Right.
It might begin with a gentle touch on the arm,
All right.
progress to a playful brush of the hand, and then,
Mhm.
gradually move towards more intimate forms of contact as comfort and trust grow.
So the key is to gauge their receptivity and
Absolutely.
make sure that each touch feels, natural and consensual.
Yes, yeah. Kino escalation should never be forceful or intrusive.
Right.
The goal is to create this sense of fluidity and connection through touch, kind of subtly breaking down those physical barriers.
We've talked a lot about how these techniques can be misused. And before we move on, I just want to
Yeah.
emphasize that seduction, no matter the setting, should always be practiced ethically
Yeah,
and with respect for
absolutely.
the other person's boundaries.
Yeah, I think that manipulative tactics or coercion have no place in genuine seduction.
Right.
The objective is to craft a mutually enjoyable
Yeah.
and respectful experience where both individuals feel empowered and fulfilled.
Yeah. Okay, good. So let's transition then to the final leg of our exploration. We've uncovered the intricacies of seduction
Mm.
across various contexts, and I want to make sure that our listeners leave with some tangible takeaways.
Yeah, I think, understanding these principles of seduction can really enrich not just our romantic lives, but also our careers, our relationships, and even our ability to navigate everyday interactions.
Yeah.
Mastering nonverbal communication,
Oh,
comprehending those power dynamics that we talked about,
yeah.
refining our persuasive skills. These can be invaluable assets
For
in
sure.
both our personal and professional spheres.
Yeah. So it goes beyond just, romantic conquests.
It does, yeah.
It's about, honing your communication skills,
Yeah.
deciphering social cues,
Mm.
and radiating that aura of charisma that we've talked about
Right.
that draws people towards you.
Exactly. Yeah. Imagine yourself, at a networking event,
Yeah.
approaching new individuals with confidence, engaging them in meaningful conversations,
Right.
leaving them feeling intrigued
Yeah.
and wanting to learn more about you.
Right.
That's really the essence of seduction,
Yeah, for sure.
in everyday life.
And it's not about superficial charm
Right.
or manipulation.
No.
It's about demonstrating that genuine interest
Yeah.
in others,
Mm-hmm.
actively listening to them,
Absolutely.
making sure they feel valued
Yeah.
and appreciated.
Yeah. Authenticity is paramount.
Right.
And when practiced ethically, seduction is about amplifying our natural charisma
Yeah.
and leveraging it to forge these positive connections
Right.
that enrich our lives.
That's a great thought
Yeah.
to consider. I think this is a good place to wrap up this segment of our exploration.
Yeah.
And we encourage you, our listeners, to reflect on these principles
Mm-hmm.
and how you might integrate them
Yeah.
into your own lives. Welcome back.
So we've covered, like a lot of ground here.
We have.
We've talked about the history, the psychology,
Yeah.
the different archetypes,
Mm-hmm.
the importance of ethical considerations.
Right. So now I think let's bring it all together
Yeah, let's do it.
and see how these ideas can be applied.
Yeah.
In a practical sense.
Yeah.
Moving beyond the realm of romance.
Absolutely. It's fascinating how these principles of persuasion extend far beyond, just the romantic.
Yeah.
The concepts that we've explored can really be valuable tools in a lot of areas of life,
Sure.
including, our professional endeavors and even just our everyday interactions.
So let's start with the workplace.
Okay.
Let's say you're going for a promotion
Mm-hmm.
or trying to, present a new idea
Right.
to your colleagues. How can understanding these seduction dynamics help you stand out?
Well, I think in the professional world, seduction is about presenting yourself as an indispensable asset.
Okay.
It's about understanding the desires and motivations
Uh-huh.
of those in positions of authority
Right.
and tailoring your approach to resonate with their vision.
So it's not about manipulating your superiors,
No, no, no.
but it's about, showcasing your abilities
Yeah, exactly.
in a way that aligns with their goals and with the company's goals.
Right. The goal is to create that win-win scenario
Yeah.
where both you and the organization thrive as a result of your success.
So let's shift our attention to business and sales.
Okay.
Seduction seems almost intrinsic to those fields, don't you think?
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, like how could it not be?
Yeah. I mean, I think in business, seduction is about cultivating this alluring brand,
Right.
crafting that compelling narrative,
Uh-huh.
and ultimately persuading consumers to choose your product or service over the competition.
Yeah. And it seems like it's about tapping into that psychology of desire
Hmm.
and crafting, a marketing strategy
Right.
that speaks to those inherent needs and aspirations.
Absolutely. I mean, think about those captivating ads that evoke strong emotions, instill a sense of urgency, and leave you craving that product.
Right.
That's a seduction in action.
Yeah. So let's kind of zoom in on our daily interactions.
Okay.
How can understanding these principles of seduction help us connect,
Hmm.
with others on a deeper level?
Well, at its core, seduction is about cultivating that captivating presence,
Right.
nurturing those genuine connections, and leaving a lasting impression.
Yeah.
And I think these skills can be invaluable
Yeah.
across all aspects of our lives,
Right.
whether we're networking
Yeah.
or forming new friendships
Mhm.
or even just navigating, social situations.
So it goes beyond those, romantic conquests.
It does, yeah.
It's about refining those communication skills,
Yeah.
deciphering social cues,
Hmm.
radiating an aura of charisma.
Right.
That draws people in.
Exactly. Picture yourself at a networking event,
Mm.
um, approaching new individuals with confidence,
Sure.
engaging them in meaningful conversations,
Yeah.
and then leaving them feeling intrigued and wanting to learn more about you.
Right.
That's seduction
Yeah.
in everyday life.
And it's not about, superficial charm or
No.
manipulation.
Right. It's about demonstrating genuine interest
Yeah.
in the other person.
Actively listening to them,
Absolutely.
making sure they feel valued and appreciated.
Yeah, authenticity is key.
Yeah.
When practiced ethically, seduction is really about amplifying our natural charisma and leveraging it to forge those positive connections that enrich our lives.
So as we wrap up our deep dive into seduction,
Hmm.
I thought it would be useful, to kind of synthesize what we've learned.
Okay, yeah.
Like 10 key takeaways for our listeners.
Sure, absolutely. Let's distill this down.
So first, seduction is about much more than just romance.
Right.
It's a fundamental aspect
Hmm.
of human interaction
Yeah,
that impacts, all areas
it does.
of
Yeah.
our personal and professional lives.
Absolutely.
Second, seduction involves persuading someone to follow your lead,
Okay.
not through coercion,
Right.
but by tapping into their existing desires
Yeah.
and needs.
Absolutely.
Third, throughout history, various figures have mastered this art,
Hmm.
each using their own unique approaches
Right.
and personas.
Absolutely.
Fourth, understanding the psychology,
Okay.
behind seduction, including, things like the dark triad
Mm.
and this concept of alphas that we talked about is really crucial for navigating this.
It is, yeah.
Fifth, successful seduction often follows that three-step model:
Hmm.
attraction, comfort, and trust building.
Right.
Sixth, specific techniques like kino escalation and the hover and disqualify can play significant roles.
Hmm.
But it's vital
Yeah.
to use them ethically
Yeah.
and respectfully.
Absolutely.
Seventh, consent, respect, and genuine connections
Yeah.
should always be prioritized.
Absolutely.
Eighth, these principles can be applied effectively in various domains,
Yeah.
including careers, business, even everyday interactions.
Right.
Ninth, authenticity and building genuine connections are essential for employing these techniques in a way that benefits everyone involved.
They are. Yeah.
And tenth, by mastering the art of ethical seduction, you can enhance your life, achieve your goals, and just navigate the complexities of human interaction
Absolutely.
with greater confidence and finesse.
I couldn't agree more.
Well, thank you for joining us
Yeah. Thank you.
for this deep dive,
Mm.
into the world of seduction. We
Mhm.
hope you found it, insightful,
Yeah.
and that you have a new understanding of this multifaceted and very influential force.
Absolutely. And remember, the power of seduction lies not in manipulation or trickery,
Right.
but in understanding human psychology,
Yeah.
refining your communication skills,
Right.
and using those abilities to to forge those positive connections
Yeah,
that enrich your life and the lives of those around you.
absolutely. Thanks again.